goes. Hello.
Hi.
We're here at wonderful Banff, and we're having a great time at the conference.
Wish you were here. So we thought we would give you a little update about our thoughts from the day.
Okay. And what have we made? Of course, it's fifth space in with forward, and we used our...
With the stuff that's sticking with me is the values platform was one of the sessions, and it was talking about, like, rather than using future scenarios or those types of techniques to get people to be on the same page, like using a values platform or having a philosopher guiding your work. And then in a different session, I heard the quote, "The purpose of vision is to sustain actions towards this direction," and it kind of tied in for me with the values platform. There's a lot of abstractions going on, and like in the last session I was in, that everyone kept wanting to kind of talk about things really abstractly, and I kept hearing Sarah say, "But what pain? For whom?"
You know that it's gone wrong when you hear Sarah in your head.
And then I guess over into something I was puzzling with, like coming out of the workshop, I felt like they were really easy on us. They didn't ask for much from every like little time period compared to like the space. They're really easy on us, right? And then everyone else commenting, "Oh my gosh, I'm so tired." I'm like,
You don't even know.
You did not have to produce much at all. Like you got to put words on sticky, and that's what you produced. So I felt pretty it felt like easy. Very easy. And then I wrote down something that was missing. In one of the sessions I heard the role of the designer is evolving as they lean towards more socially conscious activities. And I think that is something that we're grappling with a lot and with Forward, like what are the roles? And we're all trying to write our job descriptions right now. And we're writing, like, I wrote a technical job description of what an interaction designer does, but there's all this stuff about my role that's about like bending towards making the world a better place for people, and I haven't really known how to talk about that as a designer. And I feel like the idea is being presented here, but what do designers do differently when they're bending that way is like not being talked about, and I think that would be a great thing to offer, like how we have to work a lot differently. We're not producing slick products. We're producing like rough products that we put out in the world quickly so that they can be tested and iterated. And we work really closely with the people who know this stuff. And we actually everyone is making things, and the designers are just like plugging it into design. It's a very different way of working than a regular design studio. So I felt like that would be nice to actually to show more visually.
Okay.
Somebody else go.
All right, so something that I found that was sticking with us is the importance of doing ethnographic research before actually creating solutions to problems. So they told a story, and the person who had done the opening ceremony talked about, how, I don't know if it was her actually, they put a well in a community in Africa to help bring clean water to the community. However, the women were actually sabotaging the well water because they wanted to be able to go out and get away from their husbands and talk and sort of support each other. So that was interesting because that's, again, speaks to sort of the importance of doing your research before implementing a change or a solution. Something that I found puzzling that I would like to know more about was, now I know this was Anne that did talk about this Venezuela's project where they did music therapy for the kids that were troubled there. And it started off with, I think, like 13 kids were part of it, and it branched out to over 1 million, and it's created some pretty radical change. So that's something that I just want to know more about. I want to know how they came to that, what it looks like, and maybe see some videos and get some more information on that. Something I found that mystifying was obviously the weather, because it's been absolutely crazy. And the amount of people at this conference with different backgrounds, everyone from anthropologists to designers to biologists and everything in between. So that has been kind of interesting. And then something I felt was missing would be, I was really hoping to learn more about how to design prompting tools for folks with disabilities. I think that's one of the, conceptions that I had coming in here was that we would learn more about that, and I hadn't had a chance to learn more about that yet. It's only the first day that we've been here. And something else that I found that was missing was simple language. A lot of it was very academic terms that I wasn't necessarily understanding, and I'm sitting there with my phone on my dictionary trying to figure out what these words meant. So that was, something that I found that was missing.
lots of things stuck with me. Two things. One was radical incrementalism, and a lesson to not be so impatient. Because if you move too quick, then you can lose the meaning. And I think oftentimes we want to see change and we want to see it now. And, sometimes we don't listen to all the other nuances along the way. And the other one was symbols are able to cross barriers of language and literacy. And so really thinking, what are our symbols, especially with the fifth space and kudos kind of moving forward, aside from, developing a language around it, like what are the other kind of markers of meaning for those pieces. So I like that. And then listening more. That was a running theme today that I thought was really valuable. Something I found puzzling was in the last workshop a little bit about idea generation, which is how do you get folks to do it and provide them with inspiration that's not too daunting. And so I still haven't really gotten a clear answer on that, and I don't know if there is. I think it's just a lot of experimentation. But yeah, just trying to figure it out even for myself to get into that idea generation mode, like what would inspire me that wouldn't make me feel, too intimidated or that's not really something I can do. Something that's mystifying. I've heard this a few times, what are these wicked problems? And so that's kind of come up as a term. And then something that was missing for me, relating design solutions within a rigid framework. What's the entry point? That's my kind of curiosity. Of a lot of people talk about like how design is in systems, but they haven't really spoken quite about what's quite the point of entry, especially in sectors where design is so new.
Well, I guess I would have to agree with, it would have been great to have plain language. There were some words that, that puzzled me, I will say. And I guess actually what is emergence? We heard a lot about emergence. What does that actually really mean? The things that I guess I took away too, and one that I forgot to put in is where using the system as the model and your boundaries, probes, and modulators, and actually where are those points that you're going to, people talked about it a lot, but actually no one really said where they were or how they did it. So, I would like more information about that. And social bots totally mystified me. I have to say there was a little story
have a
around
relationship
that.
with one another.
Yes, I could. How do I know? I'm on the computer. I may be having a relationship with one. I don't know. What other side? Hang on. Okay. Oh, and I don't think there was enough talk about ethnographic research. There wasn't enough information about where people were actually connecting with people. They were saying, we like this, ground bottom-up research, but they didn't actually say how they were doing except getting data. And
yeah, there wasn't many photos of it, like in people's presentations.
Yeah,
it was
you
all
didn't
this
really,
kind of diagrammatic.
Yeah. So
they didn't mention interviews. Like when I asked some questions, I said like interviews was like the level of which.
Anyway, so that sort of was it.
It would have been great if there was some primary accounts so that we would know like what.
I like that phrase, primary.
Yeah, because that was what I found, something that was really missing. How do you know your solution means to users the way you planned it? How do you check in with that, and how do you develop a system of any or check-in of any kind to clarify that communication? Because that's really key in especially trying to nudge change into what's existing. And I just feel that I was hoping to learn more about techniques to maybe fish those out coming into the conference, but then I think it's another big can of worms that they haven't really kind of figured it out yet either. I don't know. We still have one more day. So things that are sticking with me, one of the words that was used was fast fail. So it's what we went through at the fifth space about prototyping. So we put things out and fail fast. So we come up with something else that could troubleshoot. And I think that was really important, like especially when we are working with people. I don't think we don't even think about it. Like if any change is observed, we just consider it to be a success, but who knows, right? Because especially if they have difficult time communicating their needs and wants that are like their method is very different. And but there was one theme in common that I've noticed from a lot of the presentation today was that people from all over the world are flustered about that one same thing, which was top-down experience of like, it's like, here's our product, so take it, you know, rather than asking the clients and the user group, like doing that field research and asking directly, like checking in so that they're more involved in the decision of the things as well. Yeah, it sort of came up in the empathy group that I went to, because they talked about designers getting to work with clients and how sometimes they forget the fact that stakeholders are also people, and then there's a reason why they like put out the project for you to do. And I think it's very much the same thing, especially working in our field too, sometimes that we get frustrated with parents and stakeholders and forget that they all have the pain points also. And it's really important for us to be sensitive about that. Something that I think is puzzling. Well, the very first presentation talked about the world being some kind of like lightweight. You have to, how it was like sailboat, steamboat before.
For whitewater.
Yeah,
rafting.
for whitewater rafting. You just had to plow through in the old world. Yeah. And then right now there's a need for us to be more like a sailboat with the paddles. So we have to see the currents and then realize what's going on underneath to actually be on top of everything. And it's a great definition. I agree with it too, especially living in a world that's changing as quickly as it is right now. But how to do that? I'm completely puzzled.
Oh, right. What is sticking with me? Where is my post-it note? Yes. I found it. Prototyping itineraries rather than one-off stops or destinations. I just really liked that metaphor. So that was the very first keynote speaker of the day, an architect who talked about some work happening with ecotourism in Kenya, and that kind of their insight was most tourism designs a stop. You go visit a school or a village or one thing, and instead how to stitch together a whole itinerary. But I actually thought the metaphor was broader than just that work in Kenya, but actually really relevant to us through the fit space as well. How do we design an itinerary of people through that and multiple stops along the way and not just one thing? Something I am puzzling over. Well, Manuela and I had a conversation at lunch about the boundaries between system design, which is what this conference is about, and then other kinds of design. So service design is one that we use a lot in the fit space. So how do you design the end-to-end experience of people through a service? And I think the thing it's both what's mystifying and puzzling and missing is that, for most of us, we're working in systems that are already up and running. We're not designing systems from scratch, right? Like the disability system exists. We might be designing services from scratch, like Ask a Dude is new and Kudos is new, but we're having to insert this stuff in a system that's already at play and pretty complex. And actually, I think the work of designers is to undesign most of the shit that's in that system. And so I didn't hear anything today about undesigning or dismantling or taking away stuff. And to me, that's kind of like the thing that I struggle with the most in our work is kind of that balance between adding and taking away, and that we've got to do both. So yes, that's something that was missing. Another two things that I felt were missing was change. Like, I heard a lot of process stories today. I wasn't in the great keynote of lunchtime, but I didn't hear anybody lead with, like, here's what's actually creating change in a system. Here's where a system shifted from acting like this to acting like this, and here's how our process helped that. Instead, all I heard was, here's our process, here's our great artifacts, here's our research methods, But it wasn't as convincing because I didn't know what that led to. And I didn't hear anything about prototyping. In fact, like that was the thing that I found kind of strange, is like I didn't hear that in almost any of the workshops I was in. Was like, actually, how did you move from analysis or researching things to actually making stuff, and what do you actually make as a system designer other than a map?